I realized something was wrong when my shadow moved before I did. The street light flickered, and my shadow lifted its head slowly as if it was listening. That was the moment I understood that whatever followed me home that night had already learned my shape. I am an ordinary person with an ordinary life. I work late shifts and walk home to the same quiet streets every night. The neighborhood is familiar and dull, with old houses and tired trees. That night felt the same at first. The air was cold and smelled of wet concrete. My footsteps echoed too clearly, as if the street was empty except for me. Halfway home, the silence deepened. No insects, no wind. Even my breathing sounded distant. I felt watched, but I told myself it was exhaustion playing tricks on my mind. That was when I noticed my shadow stretching longer than the light allowed. It bent toward the alley beside the road. I did not turn my head, but I felt it pulling at me like a hand made of darkness. I walked faster. The shadow stayed ahead of me now, sliding along the pavement like spilled ink. My heart pounded and my skin prickled with cold fear. I reached my house and fumbled with the keys. The door opened easily. I stepped inside and slammed it shut behind me. The house was wrong. The air inside felt thick and damp, like a basement that had been sealed for years. The lights flickered, even though the power had been stable for weeks. The walls creaked as if someone was moving inside them. I stood frozen in the doorway, listening to a slow, wet sound coming from the hallway. I told myself to turn on the lights. I told myself to move. My body obeyed, but my fear stayed rooted in place. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. The pictures on the walls tilted slightly, as if they were watching me pass. The sound grew louder. A dragging noise mixed with a soft breathing that did not belong to me. I reached the bedroom and shut the door, locked it, and pressed my back against the wood. The breathing stopped. The silence returned heavier than before. I slid down to the floor and tried to calm myself. I convinced myself that nothing had followed me inside. Then the bed creaked. I lifted my head slowly. The mattress dipped as if someone had sat down. The air grew colder. A sour smell filled the room like rust and old blood. I could not see anything, but I felt its presence pressing into the space beside me. The whisper came from everywhere at once. It spoke in my voice. It knew my thoughts. It repeated memories I had buried. Every regret, every shame. The words crawled into my ears and wrapped around my mind. My head throbbed as if something was pressing from the inside. I screamed and the lights went out. In the darkness, I felt hands on my arms. They were cold and too many. They held me still while something leaned close to my face. I felt its breath brush my skin. It smelled like the alley, like damp earth and decay. Then it went inside me. Pain exploded behind my eyes. My body convulsed as something forced itself deeper. I felt my thoughts slipping away one by one. Memories blurred. My name felt distant. The thing settled into me like it had always belonged there. When the lights returned, I was standing in the hallway. My hands were covered in blood that was not mine. The front door was open. Cold air rushed in. I did not remember opening it. I walked outside without meaning to. My feet moved on their own. The street light flickered again, and my shadow stood perfectly still. Smiled. I watched myself walk down the street from the corner of my vision. I screamed inside my head, but my mouth did not move. The thing wearing me lifted my hand and waved at the shadow. The shadow stepped forward and merged with my body. I woke up the next morning in my bed. A sunlight streamed through the window. The room looked normal, clean, safe. I almost believed it had been a nightmare. Then I noticed the dried blood under my fingernails. I went about my day pretending everything was fine. People looked at me strangely. Some avoided my eyes. Others flinched when I spoke. I caught my reflection in a store window and felt sick. My smile was too wide. My eyes lingered too long. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt it stirring inside me, stretched and pressed against my thoughts. It showed me images of the alley, of the shadow, of other doors it wanted to open. It was patient, was hungry. I understand now why I survived. It did not want to kill me, it wanted to keep me. Sometimes, late at night, I feel my shadow move when I do not. Sometimes I hear my voice whispering from another room. I am still here, but I am not alone. If you ever feel your shadow watching, you do not follow it home, because the scariest thing that ever happened to me is still happening. If you enjoyed the story, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.